was really disappointing. It's as simple as that. We did enough things right in the first half that we had a little bit of a lead, but I think it just came down to a little bit more want. In the third quarter, they just wanted to win.
And the Dogs have done enough. They were sensational in the second half.
We should never have let that game go the way it went.
Port Adelaide challenged in the last quarter, but couldn't quite complete the contract.
We're that club that's in that renewal stage, and we need to make sure every chance we play, we get something out of the game. And certainly tonight, I reckon we got a real big lesson.
Port Adelaide with the fairy tale story for the first 5 weeks, undefeated under new coach Ken Hinkley, but they've fallen in a bit of a hole. At half-time up in Darwin, they led quite well and yet have managed to lose that one. And that makes it 5 in a row, which is not great timing for you, Ken, but welcome anyway.
No, it's not, Gerard, but yeah, thanks for having me along.
Half-time, I was watching the game till half-time, turned it off and turned it over to another match, thought you were home and hosed. Was surprised that you got run over.
Yeah, look, we'd had a really solid first half of the game where we'd had the game on our terms quite a bit, and we felt as if we could continue that, we'd probably win the game of football. But credit where credit's due, the Bulldogs boys come out really hard after half-time, and you know, they won the contested ball clearly in that quarter, and they just got the result that they needed on the scoreboard. We win 3 quarters, we lose the game, but we got what we deserved.
Ken, 10 scores to 3 just before half-time. Did you see anything that was appearing in front of you that made you think that your grip on the game was slipping? I mean, you led 5-5 to 3 goals. That's a big break in a low-scoring game.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, that last 30 seconds when Minson kicked the goal off the ground from, out from about 20, 25 metres out, you just felt then a little bit of, gee, we've done a lot of good work here, but the margin's only 11. So you thought, like, you know, we've left them in the game a little bit with more of a chance, a bit more, I suppose, hope in them.
Can I ask you about Darwin playing up there? Aesthetically, it's not pretty. I mean, I know why we do it. It's promotional value, money for footy clubs, etc. But is it the right place to play a game of football in the middle of the year, in the middle of the footy season?
Oh, look, it's incredibly difficult to play. I mean, you watched that game and you thought the first quarter everything was going okay, and then the game almost changed before your eyes and it became incredibly difficult to play. It is a good environment to take football as far as for fans and for everyone to go there, but I suppose it's a really difficult game to play when some of the other games are not played. And we didn't have no rain, no nothing, but it looked like it was a game at Amy was that day when it was wet and slippery and rain. We just dealt with the same conditions, but more from the heat.
Is that, I guess, the comparison, Mike? I mean, there was a game in Amy that was played in worse conditions.
Yeah, but I was talking to Bobby Murphy before, and Ken, you have the same view as he, that there are unique conditions up there. It goes from perfect to when this sort of humidity and the dew comes in, and it's impossible to handle the footy.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, first quarter we've kicked 3-3 and 2 goals, and it was quite a good scoring quarter for us. But then, you know, as I said, the game changed before your eyes, and it was almost really difficult to get a score, and you know, with any certainty that you're going to be able to convert.
No, I'm going to go with glass half full, Kenny. I mean, you're 5-5. Obviously, the downside is you win your first, you lose your next. But I'm sure going into the season you would have taken 5-5. I mean, you've improved significantly. I guess one of the challenges as a team that needs to make a statement, you've been up for a long time. I mean, you have to do well in the NAB Cup. You know, you have to present a good product then. You've got a youngish team. It just seemed to me that you're looking really tired, you know, in round 10.
Yeah, certainly. We don't want to use that as any excuse, but you're right. I mean, at the start of the year, we'd be really honest. Just say 5-5 would have been, you know, we'd have been probably happy enough to take that result. But you know, we got away to that good start, and we've let some games slip. I suppose the pleasing part for us, and we've said all year that we'll keep at games. Every game that we've lost, we've won the last quarter. You know, that certainly says that our boys are staying at the task a bit. But, you know, again, we just would have liked to have had 1 more, 2 more wins, and we've been in a couple of those games where we perhaps could have got there.
Here's your numbers from rounds 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. Now, we can put up the numbers, but you're in a position to tell us why is it so?
Yeah, no, look, there's no doubt that some of the numbers we have got a little bit tighter, I suppose, as far as a group goes, and we have been up for a long time, as Roosy said. But, you know, I think more importantly, after 5 zip, the competition started to look at us a little bit closer too, you know, and they put a bit more pressure on us. Going into the start of the season, we'd also beaten West Coast and Sydney, you know, going into their first games of the season, so they were at full strength, so we'd gained a bit of confidence. You know, and the competition have said, oh, OK, we've got under the radar a little, but I think then after that they've gone, hang on, we're going to stop and have a look at it. We're really strong that we've got to get going again, and the buys probably has come at a good time for us. It's just a matter of now getting back up and going again.
Well, with the microscope on, they've clearly isolated Hamish Hartlett as somebody that needs to be locked down on. His numbers have dropped right off. He's going to have to learn to live with a tag. There are his numbers, 0 to 0, rounds 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. Champion data ranking points will tell you in the first half he was almost all Australian level. Second half he's right back down, and you haven't got enough A-grade players to have one of your better players not getting it.
No, Hamish needs to stand up. He's a leader of our club, and we expect him to stand up. His last 2 weeks he has got going a little bit again, and we're really pleased that he's been able to do that. But he's got to learn to deal with the tag. He's got to be, he's going to be an elite midfielder in this competition. That's tough work, and you've just got to be able to handle it, and you've got to improve every day you go to work.
How do you get up after the bye? I mean, what do you look at? Because clearly you do need to re-evaluate but is it a case to rest? I mean, I know the bye can be really tricky. You don't play. When do you train? How long do you train? All that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of planning that goes into these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, look, a lot of sides don't come off the bye that well either. I mean, we look at that, and history will tell us that a little bit. But I think for us, we're going to come back to training on Sunday, so we're going to have a full week of training going into the the next week's game on the Sunday. So we'll come back with the boys on Sunday, get them back into work, and we have to give them a break day. You just have to give them a freshen up. I mean,
so they're off till Sunday?
No, they'll go off tomorrow, and they'll have 3 or 4 days away. But when you look at us and you look at us at being the 3rd youngest team in the competition by the numbers, we probably do need to give them a rest. And then hopefully recharge them a little. And, we've got some challenges. We've got GWS, and then we go into a bracket of 3 or 4 really good sides in the competition, which we look forward to.
You're a veteran assistant coach. You're a long time getting your chance at senior level. What's the biggest surprise to you now that you're calling the shots?
Oh, no, there's not too much, Mike, to be honest. I mean, I've been around for a long time, as you said. I've enjoyed it. I suppose the surprise to me is that I haven't got tired at all in the job, and I'm fresh in the job, and I love every minute of that. But I suppose there's a little bit more work you have to do away from football. With in Adelaide especially, we've got a lot of media, and we've got the paper and the radios, and there's always something on the telly about Port Adelaide or Adelaide, and there's a fair bit of that goes on. But I just love turning up to work each day and enjoy work with a young group of players.
You got a high-profile president who's been great for your club, but has he fallen for the trap of looking at reviews of players and sending you through things that perhaps you might have missed out on?
No, Koshy hasn't done any of that. He's been great for our club. I mean, you've got Renault on our shirts, and he's brought a lot of that positivity. He's made Port Adelaide relevant again in the competition.
Have you got credibility back with your own people? You lost. The AFL was really concerned about that 12 months ago.
Oh, look, I think our numbers suggest that we've got over 40,000 members, and our Port Adelaide people have jumped on big for us, and we need them to stay. And I think they understand where we're at and what we're going through, and we need to continue to show those signs that we are going forward with our footy club.
How do you put the How do you put the Port Adelaide stamp on the Adelaide Oval? I mean, where you're playing at the present time has always been viewed by your support base as Adelaide's ground, but you've got an opportunity to make Adelaide Oval Port Adelaide's ground.
Yeah, we have, and it's a great spot. It's going to be a great location. I mean, having come out of Melbourne and where Etihad is and that, you just know that having the Oval so close to the city, it's going to just attract so many more people. It's going to be really exciting for our football club. We've got to go there and make a mark right at the start and say this is our home ground and we're going to own this place.
You've been at 3 distinctly different clubs, which is quite... I mean, you're really well placed to give us an idea of the landscape. I mean, obviously Geelong, then going to the Suns as a new franchise, and then going across to Port, that was seen as, a troubled club, as Mike said before. I mean, what do you see as the keys to building a really successful footy club?
I think there's absolutely one, and it's about stability. It's one that's really important. Having come out of Geelong and you see Brian Cook, Frank Costa and Mark Thompson, they just stuck through and got the job done really well. And you go into, certainly up at the franchise club at the Gold Coast, and you see that that's one of the key things that I know with Travis Auld and Bluey and even Malcolm Blight. They've been big on keeping stability at the football club. That's the thing that I've taken into Port Adelaide and spoken with Keith and David about, is that we need to be a really stable club. We need to have certainly direction that we're heading in, but we've got to stick the course, and that's really important, I think, for any football club. It's really dangerous to jump from one to the other, and you probably end up going nowhere.
Ken, Roosy mentioned your time at Geelong. You played 7 years with Gary Ablett Senior, and you coached Gary Ablett Junior at Geelong and Gold Coast in an assistant role for about 7 or 8 years. Who's going to leave the bigger legacy?
2 enormously talented players. Obviously, that's the obvious. Gary Senior, as a player, probably led Geelong on the field. Gary Junior, probably for mine, if he can do what he's been able to do at Geelong at the Gold Coast, I think there's probably little doubt that he'll leave a bigger legacy on the game.
Well, probably little doubt. Do you think little Gary's a better player at the Gold Coast than he was at Geelong?
He's an incredible player at both places. Yeah. He was,
more rounded?
Yeah, probably a little more rounded. I've seen his game at 2008 Grand Final at Geelong where we got beat, and Gary probably led the way in that game himself. And then I've seen him do some incredible things at the Gold Coast, where he's just willed himself to the next contest to keep the team almost going, and the belief in the young blokes. They certainly get belief out of Gary being on the ground. He's been a really good young captain. And I say young captain because he's never probably experienced too much in that role. He's just grown in that role, and I can just see him being an incredibly important part of AFL football history, I reckon. Kane
Cornes is somebody we've celebrated on the program this year. His future was up in the air, to say the least, last year. Well, I've heard you on radio saying that you had a meeting with him and you said you were here to extend his career, not to end it. But when you look at Port Adelaide's history, he has been one of their great players.
Oh, there's no doubt, and he's going to break the all-time games record in our next game. And I think 9 out of 10 years he's been in the top 3 and the best and fairest of the football club. Won 4 BNFs. You know, again, our form was probably a little bit like Kane's has been at the start of this year. 1 to 5, Kane was in absolutely ripping form for us, and you know, he probably just he slowed up a little, but he's been an incredible player.
Did you talk to him about why it almost soured beyond recall?
In the past at Port, yeah, no, look, I certainly didn't go there too much because I wasn't a part of that. But what I said to him is that there's some certain things that we expect him to be able to do as a player. He is like Dom Cassisi, one of the few leaders that we've got as far as age goes at our football club, and they're important to you. You should, and I learned again at Geelong, you should respect your champions, and I think they're very important to look after them as best you possibly can.
And you got a young bloke, Chad Wingard, who hopefully could come through as a champion. His form as a small forward's been quite superb as well, albeit dropping off in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Chad's had an incredible season for us. He was a high pick in the draft. His first year in the in the competition, he played some good football. This year he's gone to a whole new level. In fact, I'd say Chad's in our best 2 or 3 players this year, and he's been a really worthy player for us. And again, someone who loves the contest, wins his own ball, takes an incredible mark, but then wins his own hard ground ball.
Well, just from a coaching point of view, Kenny, you're going to GWS a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Probably the darkest day in the club's history. Well, how do you handle that? Have you thought about that yet? I mean, obviously it's a week or so away. How do you handle that from a new coach taking a group over there, back there?
I think we just talk about behaviours, Roosie. That's what we talk about all the time, is that if we get our behaviours right, we know that's defensive method and then some offensive method, but the defensive stuff, if we get that right and our behaviours are right, outcomes, I always say to the players, outcomes are a product of your behaviour. It's not the end of the game. You go, well, did we win this game? Well, why did we win the game? And you'll win the game because you do enough things right over the course of 4 quarters. That's exactly what we have to do against GWS. We've got to do enough things right for 4 quarters. Now, our problem has been doing it for 4 quarters. I think we've won 23 quarters for the year, which puts us up amongst the top sides on the ladder. Probably there's a couple of sides that have won a couple of more quarters than us, but that puts us up amongst us. Unfortunately for us, we've had some bad first quarters, and again on Saturday night we had a terrible third quarter. But over the course of the season, 23 quarters is a pretty solid performance by us.
I think you were heading down the payback route.
Yeah, I just wonder with the young guys. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's hard to talk about coaches.
You're talking about the Port Adelaide's loss.
Yeah, the loss and Primus. Whether the players, and I'm sure they do in some way, feel guilty about when a coach leaves. I mean, players at the end of the day are ultimately responsible. So I'd be interested to see, whether the players are uneasy going to the week, or whether they feel like, let's really, we owe this past coach rather than. I mean, it's not your issue. But it'd be fascinating to see.
What I've got at Port Adelaide is an incredible, proud young group. And I think if I know them very well, and I know led by Travis, that they'll want to stand up and they'll go back and they'll have a little think about what has gone on. We've got to be honest enough to say that's probably going to be in their minds, and I'll back them in that they're very proud and they'll come out and give a really good account of themselves. Well,
it's been great to see the people flock back to the House of Kosh. Let's hope we see it many more times later this year. Great to have you on board, Ken, and thanks for coming over.
No, thanks for having me.
Ken Hinkley, coach of Port Adelaide, our guest tonight. Plenty more to come on the